It's the Real News Network, and I'm Greg Wilpert in Baltimore. As the standoff between the government of Venezuela's President Nicolas Maduro on one side and the opposition and the United States on the other side deepens, the effort to find a solution through mediation continues. Just this week, the so-called International Contact Group of 11 countries, which includes various countries of Europe and of Latin America, met in Costa Rica for their third meeting. This group, which was launched in Uruguay last February, aims to facilitate a negotiated solution to the political crisis in Venezuela. However, no definite results have come out of this process yet. Meanwhile, Andrej Hunko, a member of Germany's parliament, the Bundestag, returned from a 10-day fact-finding trip to Venezuela last week, where he met with opposition leaders, including Juan Guaidó, social movement leaders, Maduro supporters, and President Maduro himself. Andrej Hunko joins us now from Berlin, Germany. He is a member of Germany's left party Die Linke. Thanks for being here again, Andrej.
Hi, hello.
So let's begin with the issue of a negotiated solution for Venezuela, since that was just in the news. You met with National Assembly President Juan Guaidó and with President Maduro. What was your impression of your meeting with these two leaders? How did the meetings compare, and what were their respective positions with regard to finding a negotiated solution?
Yes, I think the problem at the moment is that for a part of the opposition, at least, for Mr. Guaidó, at the moment, negotiations are seen as a strategy of the government to gain time. So he is seeing that negotiations only would help stabilize the government. So at the moment, he's not so much interested in negotiations. Not he didn't refuse in general, but it seems that the current strategy is to have a very short-term overthrow of Maduro. And Maduro on the other side, I spoke with him as well about possibility of dialogue and negotiation. And he underlined that he is open for negotiation, but he says it doesn't make sense if the counterpart of the negotiation is breaking the talks after intervention of US. So he says that most of negotiation partners are dependent on the US politics, and this happened, for example, before the last presidential election, or as well mentioned negotiations or at least talks in November and December with 4 high-ranking opposition leaders, which were interrupted in the end by the opposition party. So in general, I would say everybody says in general is open for negotiation, but if you come to concrete details, then it becomes to be difficult.
Now, the implication of the opposition stance, which you basically said, is that it would be faster for them, at least from their perspective, to achieve a change of government via insurrection instead of negotiations.
Yes.
What was your impression from your meetings with Venezuelans? Did Maduro or anyone else who supports the government give you the impression that U.S. threats and the sanctions would cause the government to resign or collapse anytime soon?
No, I don't have the impression that Maduro government is near at a collapse. It's not only the military backing the government, it is at least a significant part of Venezuelan population, especially in the barrios, in the poorer areas of Venezuela. And it seems that in late January, it was maybe closer to tumble the government, closer to be thrown over than now. After the threats of the U.S. and economic sanctions, I heard a lot of voices critical to Maduro, but saying they are opposed to these military threats and would support the government against these threats and against economic sanctions. So it seems now that even Maduro has more support than 2 months ago.
Now, you also met with Laetitia Courtois, who represents the International Red Cross in Venezuela. What did she tell you about the humanitarian situation and the possibility of introducing humanitarian aid to Venezuela, since that was a pretty big issue recently?
Yes, because International Red Cross is working since a long time there. It's not a new issue. They are working on very basic issues. And she said, and I asked her several times, she said they don't have any problems with the government or as well with the so-called colectivos. They can do their work. Of course, they need some kind of cooperation. And I really asked her several times, do you have any problems, or are you threatened, for example, by the colectivos? Because this is what German government is saying. And she denied. She very clearly said, no, we don't have these kind of problems, and we can do our work. And of course, she was calling for more support of international community. And I think this would be important to support this very important work. Of course, the situation is problematic. We have some kind of humanitarian deeper problems. We mentioned, for example, the problem of water, bringing water to the prisons, for example. And if, for example, the electricity is broken, or if you have other deep problems in the state, then at least weakest point of deliver, for example, water to prisons and these kinds of things. These are the first points. They are stopped or they cannot be delivered. So I think the economic sanctions on Venezuela, they are very clearly tackling the weakest in society.
Mm. Now, you also met with representatives of the Platform for the Defense of the Constitution, which is mostly critical Chavistas, as they're called. Tell us about their proposal, and could you also get a sense of how much support their proposal has within Venezuela?
Well, I had a different meeting with critical Chavists. They have different proposals how to solve, let's say, technically, the situation in Venezuela. The Plataforma, they said that we have a situation of a divided state. All organs of states are divided, are out of the constitution, and they are thinking of what could be a way to regain constitutional order. And they have, for example, the proposal to have a new central electoral board first, and then to have a referendum on the Venezuelan people to help if there should be new general elections, which should include presidential and parliamentary elections. And if this referendum is would be positive, then to have general elections, let's say within a time frame of 9 months, all in all. So this is one, I would say, could be one way which could work if there is a political will for this. And this should be supported, according to Plataforma, by international support, by lifting the economic sanctions, by bringing in humanitarian aid to have some kind of motivation for this process. So this is, for example, one proposal. Another proposal, for example, is that one of Victor Alvarez, as well, former Chavez minister. He's, for example, calling for some kind of national unity government, of transitorial government, opposition and government, and then have a faster track for first parliamentary and then presidential elections. And the same with international support by lifting the sanctions and bringing in humanitarian aid. So these are, I would say, there are very good proposals how the crisis could be solved. But I think the central question is there a political will for this? Is there a political will inside Venezuela? And is there a political will in the international community? I think the last thing is at the moment a big problem.
Mm. Now, finally, last time we had you on The Real News was to talk about the internal investigation of the Bundestag and how it found that recognizing Guaidó as parallel president was probably in violation of international law.
Yes.
Now, has there been any reaction from the Merkel government to this finding since then? And how is Merkel dealing with Venezuela now?
Well, there is, I would say, some kind of maybe quite small changes in the politics towards Venezuela, but not the general line. For example, German government, the foreign minister, is still supporting Guaidó. He supported him on 30th of April during the coup attempt when Mr. Heiko Maas was in Colombia and Brazil. But for example, it's different to the US. German government did not recognize the representative of Mr. Guaidó, Mr. Otto Gebauer, as ambassador in Germany. You know, I heard about the debates about the Venezuelan embassy in the US, but this is different. The embassy is the same like before. They are connected to Maduro and Ariasa, the foreign minister of Venezuela, and Germany is cooperating with them on at least on some kind of technical level. And the representative of Mr. Guaidó is only seen as a representative of Mr. Guaidó, but not as ambassador of Venezuela. So there's some kind of in-between position of Germany, but still the main line is looking for a short-term overthrow of the Maduro government and still its political backing of Mr. Guaidó and even political backing of the coup attempt on 30th of April. And this politics we as a left party are criticizing still very heavily.
Mm. Okay. Well, we're going to leave it there for now. I was speaking to Andrej Hunko, member of Germany's Bundestag for the Left Party. Thanks, Andrej, for having joined us again.
Thank you very much.
And thank you for joining the Real News Network.